Any Thomas and Blair Murray, what have you seen in them?
I think both of them have made an impact over the last number of weeks. I thought the try that Blair finished with the Scarlets on the weekend was excellent. He's quick. He's come through a New Zealand rugby system through the pathway in terms of the 20s and stuff. He can cover a number of positions in terms of played at 15 and 10 as well. Gives us a left foot option. And he's quick. You know, so we've been excited by him. And Freddie's still young. He played in the second row. We know he can cover back row as well, and we think his performances for Gloucester have been really good as well.
The youth, you've got a lot of experience back as well. How important is that?
Yeah, it's massive. I just think we're starting to see some competition now and a little bit more depth within the squad, so that's a real positive for us. And looking at a few other players who still not available, and we think if they're back for the Six Nations, players like Faletau and Josh Adams as well, I think they'll add to some more strength and depth within the squad as well.
Roger Williams hasn't played international rugby in a long time. Obviously lost Gareth Davis last week. Have we just a word on why you've kind of gone back to Roger?
Yes, I thought he played well for the Dragons last year, and we've been really impressed with the way that he's played with the tempo. We'll probably get him defending a little bit different to the way that the Dragons use him from a defensive perspective, so we need to do some work with him there. But he's scoring tries, he's running some really good lines of support. He's been around for a while, he's experienced, he's got some good pace, he's got a good kicking game in terms of the length of his kicking game. So I think he deserves that opportunity. And we've got someone like Kieran Hardy who's just coming back from injury, and we want to see him get some more rugby with the Ospreys and hopefully put himself back into contention and during the Six Nations. So I think it's a reward for someone like Rodri, who's you're really seeing that experience come through now in terms of his calmness for the Dragons, showing some leadership in terms of that role and playing some really good rugby.
And a couple of returning players who missed the last couple of campaigns for different reasons, Gareth Hanscom and Nicky Smith, just what do they bring you and why have you brought them back in that?
Yeah, just again some experience, and Nicky's been going well. Probably one of the concerns that we do have is we've got front rowers with a few niggles, and we want to make sure that we give ourselves the options of not having to manage a number of those front rowers over the week, and that definitely has been a concern for us, and making sure that someone like Nicky has been fit, has been playing, he's been doing really well. So it's good to see him back in the fold. And then Gareth was, with his experience, obviously out last week with an HIA through that protocol, and even though he's getting on a little bit, he's been playing some good attacking rugby. And so when he comes in, and we just need to look at probably the balance of our attacking game versus being smart about the way that we play. And having listened to George Skivington over the weekend, having watched that game, he's conscious of that. But Gloucester have been scoring a lot of points, but they've also been conceding a lot of points as well. And he's conscious of them making sure that they get their game management right in terms of that balance. And I think we saw a little bit more of that on the weekend in the Leicester game. So just a matter of talking to those Gloucester players when they do come in.
Derry Lake retains the captaincy. Obviously Jack Morgan's come back in, but is that to do with the job that he did in the summer?
He did a brilliant job in the summer, and probably I thought he led us exceptionally well. And then we've got what we see as two quality sevens and Jack Morgan and Tommy Rafael, so they're going to be going hammer and tong in terms of fighting for that position, and we can let both of them do that without having someone like Jack having to worry about potentially being considered for that captain's role. He hasn't been back playing a lot since returning from his injury, and I just think we wanted to have some continuity from the summer. And like I said, the group of players that we had out in Australia, I thought they were exceptional. I thought they represented Wales as a group fantastically. Particularly off the field, and the feedback that we had from the hotels, the grounds, the training grounds, the bus drivers and stuff. And so, there's an opportunity for us to to build within that squad in terms of potentially, Dowie's doing that at the moment. He's done a great job and captaining as a young player, and hopefully continues to thrive in that role.
Will Aaron Wing have to play this weekend, or how's his fitness?
I think he's available this weekend. That's been the plan for us. But I haven't. I did speak to him a few weeks ago and said that I didn't want him to feel that he had to push himself to play. We still, even if he was fit and a week or so off, we probably would have selected him to bring him back in the squad and have a couple of weeks of training. But my understanding that he is available this weekend.
One we spoke yesterday about the challenging year. You've got 3 tough games now. What are you looking for this autumn? Obviously, you're looking for that massive win in terms of the series as a whole. Yeah,
I think that's important. I'm excited by the way that the squad's looking. Like I said, we've worked on trying to develop some competition and depth within the squad, and I think we're starting to see that now. We've got some experience coming back, and players like Will Rowlands and Adam Bed coming back into the squad as well to give us a bit more solidity and experience there. There's no doubt that those first 2 games are really important for us, and if we can create some momentum and do something, then we can look forward to South Africa. So, I understand how important international rugby is about performance and about winning too.
Okay, if people would like to put their hands up now for the remaining questions. Hamish?
Likes of Ben Thomas, Mason Grady, any clues on what positions you're considering them for mostly?
We've got some options there. I think Ben's been the best back in Wales. Having a look at the way he's played and some of his stats and stuff, and so we've got an option. That's why we've probably got 2 specialist 10s in terms of Anscombe and Costello at the moment. We know we've tried Ben there; he can cover us there. So it's whether we look at that as an option, or whether we look at that 12 position where he has been doing exceptionally well. So, and Mason again, probably our concern has been the back 3 and a few injuries in the back 3, and looking at that depth. Someone like Josh Hathaway's come back from injury. Haven't got a lot of options at fullback, and Blair Murray's given us a little bit more options, and then so. Someone like Mason is, whether we look at him in the midfield or whether we look at him as a wing option.
And you talked about the importance of those first 2 games. Give us an assessment of Fiji and Australia.
Yeah, Fiji, they're coming up early. They've got a game against Scotland before us. So they're going to be tough, and probably one of the things that they have done over the last few years is they're probably not as unpredictable as they were. They tend to be a little bit more structured. And McBurn does that with Munce at 10. They will kick a lot more than people expect, but they're incredibly dangerous with unbelievable athletes. And with Australia probably going through a little bit of the same process as us. They're trying to build some depth within their squad and players and obviously their focus is this autumn. They've got potentially going for a Grand Slam. They're coming up there to do that, playing the 4 home nations, and then building towards the Lions tour for next year.
Alex?
Hi Warren, and normally you'd have 4 games, potentially make a lot of changes for the tier 2 game. You've got 3 and 3 strong oppositions. Is this a chance to really nail consistency and selection of that first team?
Yeah, probably. It's probably normally we've used the autumn again to give those players within the squad who haven't a lot of rugby one of those games. We would have made quite a lot of changes, which puts a bit of pressure, and sometimes those games can get a little bit messy. But I think if those players that are selected for that first game and do well, I can't see us making a huge number of changes in this campaign.
And Gareth, obviously, brings the experience you mentioned. Do you think we'll be able to play 3 games? Obviously not goal kicking, but also...
He's not goal kicking at the moment, so we just need to see where he's at in terms of his kicking and that, and how much he's done. That Gloucester got a couple of good goal kickers. He is a good goal kicker, but he had that problem with the groin for a long time that kept him out. So we had a discussion about that this morning in terms of goal kicking, obviously with Sam, and with Ben Thomas as well, making sure that he gets the volume. And I spoke to Matt Sharrett about that not long ago, in the last hour, just in terms of how much he's been doing. So it's important that he gets up to speed, and those players will be working hard. So it's really coming and seeing where Gareth is at this stage and how much he's been doing from that point of view.
Okay, we've got a few, so we'll do one, then Rob, then Graham.
The relationship between you and Dewey Lake, what would that look like and how would that operate as a captain?
Oh, I think that Dowie's his own man. I think one of the things that I respect about him is that even as a young player, he's not afraid to call anyone out. He's got really high expectations of himself and other players in the squad, and I think that's one of his best attributes, is that he's incredibly honest with everyone and about his expectations within the squad. So I could expect him to continue to do that, no matter who the player is and how old they are or how experienced they are. He's not afraid to speak his mind, and he does that exceptionally well. But he's someone who leads from the front and leads by example, and hopefully we'll just continue to build that relationship going forward.
Rob?
Derek said to us at the start of the season how important that win over the Queensland team was.
Yeah.
He said, the winning feeling was great. That could be a springboard. Do you have that same sense?
Yeah, I think, look, if I look back on that game, we conceded 3 maul tries, and something that we've been really good at in the last 18 months in terms of a maul defence, and that kind of kept them in the game, and when we were pretty comfortable for a while. And I suppose the biggest part of that game was, for me, keeping a composure at the end of the game, and when we were under a bit of pressure and scoring at the end is something that we haven't done for a little while in terms of, in those moments, closing out games when we have been in front. So that was a hugely positive moment for us, and my experience in the past, particularly with Wales teams, is that it is all about momentum. It's all about self-belief and confidence, and you do that and you build on that. And I think this next 6 months is important, not just for the autumn series, but the Six Nations. But I think for a number of players within the squad who potentially see themselves as possible contention for a Lions tour, and I'll be having some individual conversations with some of those players who I think, if they play well over the next 6 months, they've potentially got an opportunity to maybe get selected for tour. But that's going to have to coincide with also the team performing well also.
We look down the list of players, and then you look down the list of caps, and there's no 3-figure caps anywhere, and there's a lot in single figures.
Yeah.
That probably shows just the real challenge to you, isn't it, to get them up to where you'd like to see them?
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that you can't coach experience. So I think some of those players that have been involved in the last few campaigns, I've seen some positive performances in some of their regional games. I think we'll probably all agree that some of the regional performances have been mixed, but I do see that we're probably a little bit better than we were last season in terms of being more competitive. It was a great win for the Scarlets last week, and they're having a couple of wins. And other teams have been in games and been competitive. Dragons are probably a little bit unlucky against the 2 South African teams and took them to the wire. They probably got a little bit dominated physically by Benetton last week up front, particularly in that second half. But I've seen a big improvement in them as a team in terms of their performances. So, in terms of experience, it's sometimes about players getting out in the middle and just playing and learning from that.
So you might not have a lot of experience. There's a considerable amount of talent there, isn't there?
A huge amount, and I'm really excited by the talent and with the squad, and hopefully some of that talent and some of that experience coming back in terms of some of those older players are going to give them some more confidence and self-belief in terms of going out, because they have been involved in teams that have won, and have been involved in Six Nations championships and stuff. So that makes a huge difference in terms of some of those older players performing and doing a role to help bring those younger, less experienced players on.
Okay, we'll do Graham and then Ben.
Warren, you put a lot of stress on the long term over the last 12 months or so building towards the next World Cup. Because the short term hasn't perhaps gone as well as you'd hoped, has that emphasis changed? Do you have to secure the short term a bit more to protect the long term?
In what way?
Getting results.
Oh, yeah, results are important, but I've tried to be incredibly honest about. I'm not here thinking about my own position. I'm not thinking about how do I protect my own backside in terms of it. It's about making what we believe is the right decision for Wales. We lost a huge amount of experience post the World Cup. We knew we were going to have to go through some pain, and it's how we do that and how we collectively sort of make the right decisions about taking this team forward and hopefully building a team that's going to have some sustainability and success over the next few years. But I understand the short term is also important. There's no hiding from that. There's no getting away from the expectations, and particularly international rugby and the scrutiny that you're under. It's a hell of a lot more than anything else, and that comes with the territory. And so I'm comfortable with that. I don't have an issue with that, and it's just about putting your hand in your heart and just say you honestly believe you're making the right decision and the best decisions for Wales going forward.
So are you able to quantify then what would be a good return from this autumn in terms of results?
Well, I think the first two games are important, and getting good performances and good results in those first two games, and then I said building some confidence and momentum and going to that South African game and seeing what we can do there against the world champions. We know how difficult and tough and how physical they are, but and that's one area that's a huge focus for us, particularly with a young group and young players, is that where we've prided ourselves in the past about our own physicality, our own collision dominance, post meters and contact. We're probably a long way off where we need to be, and so definitely in this campaign it's something that will be a real focus for us in getting back to that and working hard because that becomes really important for quick ball, getting on the front foot, and we probably haven't been as good as we need to be in that area, and that comes around with a little bit of younger players in there and the inexperience that we have, but working hard sort of on the training ground to get them up to speed.
Okay, and we'll finish up with Ben.
Yeah, you mentioned Gloucester's attacking game earlier.
Yeah.
See Thomas Williams has been to the fore in that. How important is it having him back, and how do you get the best out of him in this team at Test level?
Yeah, I think from an attacking perspective, he's been exceptional. They've scored a lot of tries. They've also conceded a lot of tries as well. So we've got to find that balance between having the confidence to play and be expansive, but also be smart and be really strong defensively, because it's all well scoring the 30-odd points, but if you concede more, it becomes disappointing. So, like I said, I thought George Skivington was his assessment of where they are, where they're going. He's talking about Gloucester want to continue with that attacking style, but he's also pretty aware that they need to make sure that the game management, if they get that balance right, hopefully they can end up with more W's next to their name. And I think that's kind of us having that conversation with Thomas and Gareth when he comes in. International rugby's a lot different to club rugby in terms of it's a lot more structured. There tends to be, you're in that arm wrestle, there's a lot more kicking from both sides, waiting for those opportunities that don't often come around. You've got players who are bigger and faster and more physical. Yeah, there's not a lot of room defensively. We've looked at some stats with Gareth when he's played for Wales when we've won, and he's definitely kicked the ball more when Wales have won compared to when he's been playing when Wales have lost. And so we just need to get that balance right with our 9 and 10 in terms of our game management, and that's going to be important for this campaign. But it's also making sure that the messaging is clear, is that when there's opportunities to shift the ball and to move the ball, we have the confidence to be able to do that. And I think what's quite exciting at the moment, we've starting to get a couple of wingers with some real pace and potential to cause some problems for opposition teams. Some midfielders have got someone like Max Llewellyn who's scoring tries, and he's had a few games on the wing. He's moved into the midfield in the last couple of weeks. I think he's playing some excellent rugby, and we've got players who've hopefully got that confidence to be direct when they need to be, but also have the confidence to shift the ball when there's an opportunity to do that.
Okay, thank you very much.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.